contains strong language.
In South Africa, nobody can have a normal life. No parent can have a normal life, knowing that their children are very frightened of being confronted with the fact that they haven't got a future. Knowing that their children haven't got a future as white children. I'm speaking about white families now.
Gold bullion is trading at $329.40 an ounce. The rand is at 466.60. 702 land weather, partly cloudy and warm. No rain is forecast. Temperatures Johannesburg 25, Pretoria 27, and Vereeniging 26.
There is such a obsession with security. There's such an obsession with pressing buttons and always getting your props ready. Your wards, your guns, your Rottweilers. Sometimes you're just scared of your dogs because they can eat you alive, so nobody's hugging their animals.
Control Yankees 4H query.
You can't hug your children because then you press the panic button in their pocket or their guns go off and it shoots you through the foot. You're scared of touching your wife because she's had such an expensive facelift that her hair will fly off and her tits will fall onto the ground. It's a very funny society. And I don't know where people have a chance to hug each other and hold each other. They kill each other because of their fear. I think the biggest shock in Afrikaner society are the young families that are massacred by a father or a mother who takes her 3 children and puts them into the car, asks her child to put the hose on the exhaust, and asks her little daughter to wind down the back window and put the exhaust in, and then wind it up, and put tape on the window, and put the little teddy bear, maybe the cat and the dog, leave a note for the husband, and switch on the car. Happens once a month.
Samora Michel's plane crash was not an accident. South Africa pulled the trigger, and Mozambique opened the door for South Africa to come in. That's the sort of new stuff that I'm getting after a trip to Mozambique and just finding out that there may have been 1 or 2 people who were on South Africa's payroll. And now I have a lieutenant colonel, a senior military man who has confirmed that they were there with sophisticated equipment, that there were in fact soldiers in the Imbuzini area on the night Samora Michel's plane crashed. So some progress at least.
As well as roof truss manufacturing. Get to Bayetta's Buildware, the building materials specialists. 25 minutes to 1, you're with John Robbie. Hell, time's gone quickly. It's nice to be back. And nice to be talking about issues that mean something to all of us, that count for all of us. Winnie Mandela is in the news again. She's calling for a referendum on the death penalty. Apparently she stunned her ANC colleagues by saying a referendum should be held on the death penalty because, and I'm quoting her, criminals are getting off scot-free.
Extraordinary how change has actually changed everything, and yet somehow it has changed nothing because prejudice is still there. I think my only weapon against things like racism is the fact that I was brought up a racist. I was educated as a racist. I believed in a God that was a racist. And so, like an alcoholic, I have to say every day, I'm a racist, therefore I must not be a racist. Like an alcoholic says, I'm an alcoholic, so I won't drink again. It's not easy.
You see, the thing is, they don't want to learn. They sit on their backsides, and they don't want to work.
How can you teach somebody that does not want to learn?
They're pulling us down. They're putting blacks into managing positions, and they don't know what they're doing. They're really going after the ones, especially the ones. They're really going after us to try and get us out.
The cloak and dagger world of spies, double agents, dead letter boxes and listening devices came under the spotlight at the amnesty hearings of 9 former security policemen in Port Elizabeth today. The 9 are seeking amnesty for the 1989 murders of 3 black security policemen and an informer. They were suspected of passing details of security police intelligence operations to the ANC.
They're giving the black the commander's post, and his second in charge will be a white. But they want it for nothing. They want free promotion. They don't want to study to get promoted. They wanted the promotion to come to them. In South Africa, the police has always been the first line and the last line of defense. We fought the wars on the border, crime in the cities. We're always the first and last line of defense, always. Big dick from a sports lover.
The more I'm doing the story, the more I'm going into the history of Mozambique and the terrible, terrible damage that South Africa did to this country, which is another thing that people don't want to accept. We fought a dirty war here, a very dirty war. It was South Africa's Vietnam.
This evening, first pictures of the crash scene were released by state-controlled television, which attributed the disaster to human error.
Listeners are just something else. They really are. You're their darling if you're doing stories about missing babies. But the minute you do a story about a Mozambican communist president who got sort of, possibly shot down by South African soldiers, then you're a biased ANC hack. They believe Michelle was murdered and that South Africa had a hand in it. They want the inquiry officially reopened. And lastly, Jeremy, the key issue goes to the presence of military people in the area. And according to our special force source who we interviewed and broadcast on 702, there were indeed soldiers.
Well, Deborah has been following that trail, and later on we'll chat to her and find out some more of the jigsaw pieces in this incredible story. And of course, again, a lot of people saying, why on earth are you bringing it up now? It belongs to the past. We'll try telling that to the widow of the president. You're at 7:02, it's 18 minutes past 6. Good morning.
There has just been a torrent of people, 702 listeners, quite racist, phoning, dragging in the fact that I'm married to a black man, and the most unbelievable insults. A Kaffir husband of yours, is what they said. That Kaffir's been fucking you so much that now your brain is fucked. Can you believe it? 202. It's 202.
Going to meet is Mweli Mzizi on the program. Mweli Mzizi. Now, who's Mweli Mzizi? Shouldn't say it. He's known by a lot of people as Deborah Patter's husband. Ellie said Mr. Patter. That's unfair, isn't it? She's Mrs. Mzizi.
Deborah Patter. Patter. P-A-T-T-A. P for Peter, A-T-T-A. Patter.
Very interesting guy. Mweli, he's the prince. He's known as the prince. He's a blooming prince. He's part of the Zulu royal family. But he's an interesting guy, and I've seen he's taken over the 7 Art Cinema in Norwood. It's now called Rex's Movie House. Yes! He's the husband of our own Deborah Patter. We'll chat to him a little bit later on.
You can get hold of anyone you want to, but sometimes it just takes days and days and days. Days. I think most people know I'm married to a black man. People know because it was written up in the magazines and the newspapers and so on. It was a royal wedding. I'm a princess.
You're John Robbie on 702. It's 20 minutes to 7. It is a fabulous day in 702 land. Not a fabulous headline, though, in the newspaper. Armed robbers snatched a 1.5 million rand after firing shots at Springbok patrol van. A shocking story. And I wonder which Liberation Army or security force they used to belong to. You have to ask the question, eh? Let's get away from all that. Let us cross now to Los Angeles.
My husband tells me over and again how angry he gets with white South Africans because they still think that they own this country and still behind closed doors maybe mutter little racist words and things like that. This arrogance that you get from white South Africans of, I don't need to apologize, I didn't do anything wrong, I never personally did this and that and that. They still, in a way, regard blacks as servants and slaves. Can I have a cappuccino, please? Cappuccino. Cappuccino. White South Africans have lived a privileged existence. They benefited from apartheid. And if they didn't benefit from apartheid, they had to be pretty stupid, considering all the privileges that they had. Then we had the new South African elections, a new democracy, and they're still benefiting because in many ways things haven't changed.
We're talking to Deborah Patter now. She's been investigating this crash that killed Samora Michelle, the crash that killed Samora Michelle. Deborah, welcome to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. What's wrong with your voice?
It's my undercover voice, John.
Is it?
It's a conspiracy to keep me broadcasting.
Are you sure it's not roaring at the Spice Girls? I thought I saw you up on stage there going through the motions with the...
That's John. I have managed to dig very deep into the bowels of a group of people, ex-recce, special force guys, highly skilled, highly trained, who fought South Africa's dirty war in Mozambique. But they cannot talk about anything, even if they were soldiers in Mbuzini. It is classified information. There is quite strong evidence that there was a Mozambican connection, that somebody inside this country opened the door for South Africa to come in and actually collaborate. I've had a lot of threats, in particular one pretty nasty incident at my home.
Yeah.
So certainly
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, somebody came to the house, I was alone at night, it was in the sort of after midnight, and rang the doorbell and said, we know you're in there alone and you better stop playing with fire, otherwise you're going to go up in smoke. Which just goes to show that there are some people outside who are very concerned. And I have no doubt that a military operation planned at this level would go to the very, very top.
We trained in all facets. We trained in conventional warfare, guerrilla warfare, and urban warfare. Every policeman. Urban warfare is always more difficult than what it is conventional or guerrilla warfare. So it's much more difficult. Only problem is we don't know what the enemy looks like. We don't know what they're carrying. They can be anywhere. It could be the guy standing next to you on the pavement. It's not fighting crime, it's fighting a war.
Waar kry jy daai boek? Wat 'n meneer? Wat 'n meneer? The pants that he's got on.
Sit neer jou kak.
It's police uniform pants.
Nee.
And you can't wear them.
Ek het nie gesê sit nie. Sit. Hier goed, fucking broekie onderaan. Get weg.
Yeah,
I have no problem with that. This is a police pants. You cannot wear police pants.
so you better take
I
it off,
haven't got
buddy.
a sock with you. You want me to lock you up? Gewoon bopa. Dis aan bestok sien. Musu ganga. Wanneer de boela. Ja bon. Huh? Take off the pants.
Take off quickly.
Max the gorilla is undergoing emergency surgery at the Johannesburg Zoo after sustaining 3 gunshot wounds during the incident. The robber had been trying to evade police when he fell into an enclosure which is home to Max and his companion Lisa.
Put that in evidence as well. Hey, corner.
In a bid to protect his female friend, Max became defensive and sunk his teeth into the robber and 2 policemen. The police officers had been chasing after the suspect,
Give me your hand.
and when they saw the gorilla attack him, they intervened.
Check the fingers there.
Take the fingers.
The black.
Hey, open up. I'm arresting you for possession of narcotics. You understand this? You understand what I'm arresting you for? You understand?
The suspect opened fire on the primate, wounding him in the chest and jaw. Zoo vet Dr. Leslie Rasmussen says Max is still unconscious, but he'll be transferred to Millpark Hospital for an operation.
Of course, we knew apartheid was wrong, and no, we didn't know what was happening, and we're terribly shocked that we killed all those people, and if we'd known, we would have stopped it. Nonsense. We did it because that was the way life was, and we were terrified to think otherwise. I think the biggest tragedy is that there are still too many people who mean well and are not assisted. I'm talking, in this case, about police, who was part of the Nazi Gestapo of apartheid South Africa and now have to be part of the guardian angels of the new democracy, are still not trusted. And the police are not being paid by the government, they're being paid by the drug lords. You give them 1,000 rand more a month, and of course they're going to work for you.
Who's in charge? Look at who's at the helm. That's where your problem is. Destabilizing the police and the military has got something to do with the new elections. That if the present black government does not get re-elected, they can cause major problems. And there's no police and army to stop them from causing this havoc. You understand? In the pre-election years, we recruited 10,000 policemen per year. Now they've not recruited one single policeman for the last 3 years. Plus, 100 policemen leave the force every day in South Africa. I'm getting angry at my employers because everybody's complaining. My wife's yapping, and the children are screaming, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It says turn south. Yeah, it must be that way. Oh, yeah, south. South, that way. There. What are you doing? South. It's that way, bro. It's not far from here.
These forces are never known for attracting independent, free-spirited thinkers into their midst. And ours is no exception. But ours is probably a little more to the right of most police forces.
You like it, Colonel?
The large majority of the white members of the police force are ideologically very similar to the way they were before. And the tragedy with the South African police force, it has always had a political motive. And I suspect that it may still have a political motive.
They're really going after the whites, especially the whites. They're really going after us to try and get us out. Most of the countries that are governed by blacks are the poorest countries in the world. They're the poorest, they steal the money. This country will go the same way if it stays like it is now. If it's governed by whites, it needs to have a certain standard. We've got noble ideas amongst ourselves. We've got very noble ideas. But when the politicians make a bugger up of what they've got, then obviously somebody's got to neutralize them. They have to be neutralized.
Whether the gunmen are still in the warehouse or not. Company employees are standing outside waiting for the police to clear the place. According to one eyewitness, 4 men made her and other employees to lie face down. She says she's still in shock.
I think the guys are out. I think the guys are out of the building.
The police and the army obviously is going to stand together to sort out the problems. And the generals and that, they'll organize the things around, you understand? You're gonna be small strike forces. Small forces that strike quickly and extract. That's a key to guerrilla warfare, but it's going to be in an urban situation. You know, the small force, 6 men maximum per unit, hit a place quickly, extract. That's a key to guerrilla warfare.
Meanwhile, police are still taking a statement from a woman who was taken hostage by the robbers. The woman says one robber held her briefly, pointing a gun at her, but she managed to escape. Donald Joke, 702 Eyewitness News, Wynberg.
A friend of mine grew up in a small little fishing village on the west coast of the Cape. It's still there. Picturesque, beautiful beyond description. And they were very happy there. And in 1948, when the National Party government took over, one morning a little boat was rowed across, and there sat a man with a hat and a briefcase. And he went around to the 24 houses in this village and gave every person an envelope from Pretoria. And in that envelope, they were told which ethnic group they belonged to. So suddenly brothers became black, sisters became colored, mothers became white. And she said, over that weekend, 6 people killed themselves. That's what we did. And of course, now we have this extraordinary farce of a truth commission, and there are the past leaders of apartheid South Africa. Pik Botha. He was the longest serving foreign minister in the world. He was in the government of John Vorster, and the government of P.W. Botha, and the government of F.W. de Klerk. And then he was quickly recycled into the government of Nelson Mandela. And now he has got the humanity to stand up in front of the world and say,
I could have done more to turn the tide of apartheid earlier.
I did not know what was happening. May God forgive me.
I could have done and should have done more to find out whether these suspicions, these accusations, you know, of a person that's been shot or jumped out of.
We never used the word kill. We said neutralize and eradicate, but we didn't mean kill. And of course not, they meant give them an ice cream and send them to the movies. And that's real life, the absurdity of real life.
Similar to my guest is Pik Botha. And normally what I do on my guests, with my guests, is I ask him to read a, you want to read a commercial?
I can do it.
You know, you should be able to just say, give me that darn thing and let me read it, because you now host your own talk show on radio. You now even have touched the world of comedy, the world of theater. So if you can't read a radio commercial, Pik, you're not worth your salt.
Is your garden a jungle? Do you have trouble finding your dog in the grass? If so, what is that word? Livingstone's. The biggest garden warehouse in Africa. Now, what more do you want? As the perfect outdoor power solution. At Livingstone's, you'll find the widest range of mowers and garden equipment, and all at the lowest possible prices. You can get a tandem 2-kilowatt electric Land Rover for just 1,299 rand. I didn't say 99 cents. 1,299
It's enough,
rand.
Pik. You've given him more than his fair share.
Okay.
Do you shop there?
Yes, I do.
Seriously.
Oh, yes. Very reasonable prices, good material, good quality material.
No. Ah, wait.
Okay, sorry.
We moan, we bitch, we whinge. We have become a nation of born losers in many ways. It's very difficult to feel part of a country that you don't trust.
Listen, Pik, you know, with fairness to you, I think you're still mystified not only by the skies and the stars, but by women too. There's something about women that still mystifies you. Am I right?
What I recommend is that you bring her back tomorrow, because today she's going to wait the whole day and right into the night till after midnight. You can wait if you want to, but my recommendation to you is that you rather come back very early in the morning, either tomorrow or the next day. Because, unfortunately today there are too many patients and too few doctors.
We see a lot of patients being admitted with HIV disease and AIDS, the rather seedy sides of life, which I think we can't escape. And many of the patients who come to the hospital are victims of social conditions. The hospital's now doomed to close within a couple of months. It's a busy hospital, if not the busiest hospital in the central Gauteng area, in the central Johannesburg area.
They have referred you to the wrong hospital.
It is not merely the erotic, rhythmic expectations. It's far more. It is the mental, spiritual unity that one can eventually achieve with a woman, which is the greatest.
Unfortunately, you've really come a long way out of your way today. Okay, it is the new plan to try and control the numbers so that we don't become flooded with too many patients here. And we don't have the numbers of doctors that can process all the people that are coming here.
The advice, we think, has been given by ideologists rather than by medical people. Those wards will no longer exist. They'll be closed down. In fact, the whole hospital may be leveled. The sale of that land would provide a lot of extra income for the government departments. We could be cynical and wonder whether all that income will find its way back into the public domain, or will some of it find its way into the pockets of people who have been behind the decision to close the hospital.
So farewell was farewell.
That was
farewell to the money and farewell to him.
That's it.
You always have to question why people are coming forward. What is it they actually want? You know? Are they after money? Are they after something else? It's quite sickening in a way, because there's all these secrets that are kind of kept hidden. And some people have a lot of power. They probably don't realize it, although there's no reason for them to come forward. Unless they are in some kind of trouble, then they've got bargaining chips. He was an apartheid assassin, known as Prime Evil. And when eventually some of his colleagues turned against him and turned state witness, they actually had to go out of the country to get the information. It was just too risky to do it here. The number's busy. And a lot of people keep information as their insurance for the future. Never know when they may need that information. So don't give it up voluntarily, give it up only when you have to, if ever. One wonders just how many untold stories are out there about South Africa's dirty little past. Just the initial discussion would just be I'm not looking for anything on the record. Just confidential, background, no name stuff.
I've got to ask you now, because otherwise I may forget.
Foreign Minister Botha refused to speculate as to the cause of the crash, but rejected any suggestion of South African involvement.
Where were you the night it happened?
Well, it happened at about 7:30 in the evening. I was in Pretoria, and I would just recommend that people who think that President Mandela was poisoned should go and read Professor Nell's autopsy reports.
You mean President Mashal?
President Mashal, sorry. Because I also saw his body. He died from multiple fractures of the skull, the abdomen and the chest. It was a gruesome death.
702 on the John Burke Show. Putwood, my very special guest.
Corruption has certainly been a very big issue in all spheres of political life in South Africa. We think money is disappearing into areas which are totally beyond the knowledge of the public domain.
We've been having to cope with these less than ideal circumstances for 3-4 years now. Opinions have been expressed by some of my doctors that they're unwilling to carry on working under these conditions and that they will resign. So I think we're fast approaching a period of crisis, and I don't see any hope on the horizon, to tell you the truth.
There's a lot of patient comes here, especially gunshots, like this one. If they're closing this hospital, I think they are killing the people themselves.
When is it closing?
We really don't know. We heard that on the 24th of December it's closing up. We don't know whether it's true or not.
And what will happen to you?
We don't know. We really don't know what is going to happen to us.
My grandparents fought for this country, and now the blacks demand the country back. They have almost total control of South Africa. I have a love for a Nazi party, for Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, because they fought for the same white nation as we do for today.
Ek wil u loof, ek wil u prys, want u het vir my weer.
My parents, as did many other Jewish families, immigrated from Eastern Europe.
Hitler was a man, when he promised his people he would fight for them, he fought for them, and that is why I respect him.
En iemand wat vir my kan bystaan, wat vir my kan sorg, wat vir my kan help.
My father fled the imminent Nazi occupation of that part of the world, and I was born in South Africa just at the beginning of the Second World War, 1939.
He is one of the history's most respected men in my eyes.
Dat hy hierdie vrou uit iets besonders moet neem.
I've got a lot of training and experience, but I cannot get a job. I think that's not fair. I'm believing in God, in Jesus Christ, and the ANC don't believe in that.
Ons so sal sien dat ons bewus sal wees dat u is die hoof.
The blacks cannot keep on loving him for what he's doing to your Bible, to your people. He's stealing your stuff. Killing your people. I think most of the people won't love him.
The friends that my family have are largely white and more particularly largely Jewish. There are not much cross-ethnic friendships in our family. although we certainly have associations, but not close friends.
When the ANC took over South Africa, their people were employed in the white people's place. It is apartheid in the opposite direction. Only blacks. No white man can get a job. Only blacks. And many companies, big companies in South Africa told me straightly that I'm white. Sorry. Affirmative action.
We are sinking into a third world situation, and the government has squandered a tremendous opportunity. And I would use this situation to consider taking the rather dramatic but nevertheless, I think, sensible step of immigrating from South Africa.
So today we have a concept of a right-wing revolt simmering under the surface, but I don't believe it's there. Yes, there is a man called Eugène Blanche, but he gets so pissed he falls off his horse all the time. So the wonderful thing about him is he's the biggest buffoon under the sun. Amateurs. We have amateurs in opposition. And as long as they stay amateurs, maybe they'll never get anywhere.
The task of my movement, the AWBs, is not born out of hate for other races, but born out of the love for what is our own. We are the owners of the land. There are differences between nations and peoples. And that, my friend, has nothing to do with racism, black or white. There are differences between you and me. I like your language. I think it's a beautiful language. I can accept with wonder the poem I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud that floats on high o'er valleys and hills. For all at once I saw a cloud, a host of golden daffodils.
Ventersdorp is a small town. Quiet, yeah, little town. Everybody knows everybody in Ventersdorp. It's a small community. Many friends here. Almost everyone in Ventersdorp is my friend. There's no secrets here. I love it. I'm mad about Ventersdorp. There's a whole country like quietness here.
South Africa is becoming the battleground. The real battleground which the politicians created. We are heading for a revolution. The political situation is responsible for what is happening in Johannesburg. And now they are hungry people, without jobs and without housing. And they have to steal and to hijack to stay alive.
Control, Yankees 48 quarry.
And now they are realizing they cannot eat the so-called freedom. That is the reason why black people are shouting now. When Mandela dies, the white man will die like flies.
This particular evening I left the office at about 8 o'clock in the evening, travelled home the normal route, and being the young yuppie that I am, on the cell phone as usual, ensuring that the children are okay, which were with my sister. And when I got to her home that evening, to my surprise, having got out of the car, I turned and there was a man standing, which I thought was asking for directions, which in fact he was asking for my life. He had asked me to stand still. He moved forward and said, "I'm going to kill you." In which I responded to him, "You can take my car, here's my cell phone." I had my car keys and my cell phone in my hand. I'd just closed the driver's door. And he said, "I want your life as well as your car." At that, a second guy came up in the driveway, also a black African, I would say in his early 20s. They then took the gun to my head, pushed me to the floor on my knees, and dragged me to the opposite side of the car. When he touched me, that's when I started to crack, physically. I physically knew that I was not able to tackle these guys. When he did push me in the car, and because it was my front end first, my legs behind me, and I was wearing high-heel shoes, I did lash out at his knee. And I saw the effect that had on him. It made him even more angry. You can see in their faces that they felt, she's not going to be a problem for us. We can take the car and we can take her with. And the previous evening's newspaper was exactly a situation similar to that here, where a woman was taken and raped and knifed and left for dying on the side of the road. Now those sort of flashes go through your head and you think, well, I'm not going to be one of those victims. They then dragged me from the scruff of the hair, the back of my neck, up the pathway to the front door and in through the door, where they had held guns to my family inside. They had taken my brother-in-law and pulled the gun to his head. The children came running up the hallway, which is quite a narrow hallway, screaming and crying, and "Leave my daddy alone, leave my mommy alone." They asked for guns, they asked for money. My brother-in-law said, "We've nothing." He pulled back. He didn't antagonize them at all in any way. They stripped me of all my jewelry at that stage, wedding rings and so on. Lucky for me, they didn't strip me of my clothes, because it's the one fear that I have. It's a phobia of being raped, and that, considering the situation here in South Africa with regards to it being 1 in every 6, I think are the statistics of rape victims here in both Joburg and Cape Town. My brother-in-law, whose house this happened at, has become a total recluse. His house has become a prison within a prison. Security bars, security fences. He's now threatening to put up cameras in front of the driveway. He won't let us in unless we phone him beforehand. We must phone him as we're driving up the road. He, in fact, won't socialize after 8 o'clock at night unless you're going to his premises. If he has a party at his home, he will ensure that there are a lot of security guys surrounding the area. He has since got over that particular scene and has decided to stay and stick it out in South Africa. But his home is now a prison for both him and his family.
I don't want to work for the whites. If you work for a white, he will treat you like a monkey. Like a monkey. You see a monkey, you give a monkey a banana. The whites are not good. They want to see us work very hard for nothing. Poor jobs. Small money. Me, myself, actually, I don't want to work for whites.
Better, much better.
Tonight, both boxers desperately need to redeem themselves. Both have lost their previous 2 fights, and both men have predicted knockout wins for themselves.
This is a big, how big?
The Rose of Soweto was tense and in pensive mood. Boxing analysts say if Thobela needs to win this one, he has to finish it in the first 6 rounds, otherwise it will be Murray on points.
Okay, get in, get in.
So expect fireworks. Peter Leopeng, 702 Sport, Johannesburg.
Okay, nice and slick, eh? Don't look thin off that. Nice and slick, side to side.
I spoke to his trainer, Brian Mitchell, and he said Thobela is not in a condition to go the full 10 rounds.
I've run out. 250 rounds went in the first 5 minutes. I got onto the radio and I said, please, Control, get me vehicles out here, get me the chopper if you can, just get me some rounds. Because these guys are shooting with AK-47s, they're putting this weapon over their heads without aiming, and they just let rip. They spray and pray. That's all they do is spray and pray.
Alters, unit, clear. Next time, clear.
They reckon if you fire more than 50 rounds on the scene, you're in deep shit. But this is South Africa. This is lion country. Yeah, tigers die.
I think I'm ready for the fight. The right thing I have to do is to stop listening to all the outsiders and listen to myself, because I know that I'm ready now.
If you thought you would get a better job by going back to school, would you?
A better job. What kind of a job?
Not a monkey's job. A clerk's job.
As long as I don't work for a white, I'll take it.
Louis, I'm gone.
We got a phone call to say that the police had managed to get the person who in fact was involved in the syndicate, their reporting boss.
It's easier to hijack a women, because women carry small guns. If they shoot me all over my body, I cannot die.
I went into court to be a state witness. For me, that was terrifying, sitting in a box and knowing that he was watching me from the side of his eye. When I left the court, he followed me in his car with his lawyer until I had travelled through Johannesburg Central. Quite a big gentleman, quite a scary-looking dude. The guy who in fact was the head of the syndicate was a Mozambican guy who has been living in South Africa for apparently 11 or 12 years. He's a white man.
You make the money for the family,
Yes,
and you do that by hijacking.
by hijacking, stealing cars, and it's tough.
What do you have to do?
You had to pull a gun before that particular person who's driving a car, before he can see you. Because if he can see you before you pull a gun, there's a possibility that it will shoot you first. You see. So you must produce your gun and point at the driver, the one who drives the car. After pointing him at the head, the other one is going to hit him right here at the bottom of the gun, so that he cannot see you clearly, you see. While the other one is looking around where the police are coming or not.
Do you have a gun?
Yes.
Tell me about it. What is it?
Is that it? It carries 15 bullets. Then me, I make it 16.
So you carry an extra bullet?
Yeah.
And how many times have you fired it?
Oof. I don't know, because every month or every week, maybe in a month I lost 60-something bullets. 50-something.
And where do those bullets go?
To people who belongs to heaven. There are people who are not belonging right here. They must die.
How many people do you think you've killed?
I can't tell you. Because I shoot people, and after I shoot, I run away. So I don't know whether he's dead or... But to shoot a person at the head, I'm not sure that is going to be alive.
Apartheid was a silly little experiment that failed. We are very, very sorry for apartheid. We promise we won't do it again. But we must move forward into the world with Desmond Tutu told me. And he's much smaller than me. Desmond Tutu takes me, he's about so, and of course every time I meet him I have to bend down so that he can kiss my ring or my hand. And then of course he looks down my front. But he's an Anglican, they can do those things. It's, of course, the Catholics that go to hell.
That's great, but you're starting too late. I'm telling you, one net rand, you believe me? You believe me what I'm telling you? Murray, one net rand.
I've seen him won his fights. I've seen him lost his fights. And this time, I'm sure he's going to make it. You see, a lot of these kids in Soweto follows what Dingaan has been doing. He's been a good role model to them. Because in this country, you've got to have skills. If you don't have, you become a drug addict or be involved in gangsterism.
20 tons of confiscated illegal firearms worth more than 2 million rand have been destroyed in Pretoria today. Police Commissioner George Fivers watched as the first of 4,500 weapons were crushed and melted.
Both George and I have shot suspects coming towards us. I've shot a suspect 5 times in the chest with a NATO ball round, and he's still coming at me.
It's a high penetrating.
Yeah, it's a high penetrating 9mm round. We use 115 grain at 950 meters a second. It can penetrate nicely through metal and like a car.
But on a person,
But on a
it's
person,
gonna go
it runs
through
right through you. Policeman gets up and he fires one shot with a 9mm right through his chest, right through his heart. Line goes right through, at the back, and you've killed somebody behind him.
Wounded or whatever.
They're eating the woman, they're eating the children. But if I hit a civilian, I get charged and they'll put me in jail. They'll send me to the gallows, you understand? This person with the AK just killed 10 other people behind you.
But that's nothing.
But still, they issue us with bull. Bull is very cheap.
You bought 2 and get 10 free.
Where do you get your bullets and how much do you pay for them?
Like the bullets I get from the police, they give us free.
Is that true?
Yeah.
How much did you pay for your gun?
How much I
Pay for your gun?
pay?
Yeah, how much did you pay for your gun?
I get it free.
Where did you get it from?
The police.
The police gave you the gun?
Yeah.
Why?
You know, the police want to give the criminals the gun to kill innocent people. I don't know why.
1, 2, 3. And I let you follow. 1, 2, 3, go.
They do us. Keep on saying, go and kill the Kafirs, go and kill the Kafirs. But I don't kill the Kafirs. I shot a person if I want money. If I don't want money,
The gangsters approached me with firearms, and I had to protect myself while I shot 3 of these guys. Unfortunately, 2 of them died. I carry a 357 Magnum and a 9mm Luger. I was just fortunate I had to shoot before they could.
So policemen give you the guns and ask you to go and shoot other black people.
yes.
Why would they want you to do that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is there still a racist war going on?
Yeah. Racist it's alive in South Africa.
Aren't we lucky? Not only do we have the world's youngest and most dynamic democracy, but we have as our leader, Nelson Mandela. What more could we wish for? All we have to do is just make our democracy work. It's so simple. We don't need a crystal ball to see what is going to happen to South Africa tomorrow. The future of South Africa is certain. It is just the past that is unpredictable.
Do you think life for a young black man in new democratic South Africa is a fair life?
No. No, it's not.
And in spite of all the things you might have heard about my involvement with the past, in spite of what you might think of my involvement with apartheid, I can tell you here and now, my conscience is clear, because I've never used it. Good night.
I want to tell the people of the world that in South Africa there's no peace until the blacks are free.
But you have a black president.
Ah, Mandela. Ah, he is a black president, but he's doing nothing for us. We voted for him after when did he win the elections? 1994. He promised us houses, jobs, but people are unemployment, no houses, you see. So I cannot say Mandela is good, Mandela is good, or else he's doing nothing for us.
But is the answer to go out and shoot people and steal their cars and sell them to businessmen who really are criminals?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, there you are, the film people. I suppose optimism is like the mist before the sun. It always seems to vanish, but we must keep trying. We must keep trying. Ah, my poor people. Oh, die hard eigenlijk. Only in South Africa can somebody who doesn't exist also appear live.